Hi, everyone. Caitlin Herring joining you from Wix. And what we're going to cover today is why it's important to have an online presence, how you can begin creating your portfolio with Wix, and we'll share some best practices around design and content. And then we'll wrap up just by talking a little bit more about how you can promote yourself online as well. So as Ildi mentioned, feel free to use the chat or, just come off mute if you have comments to make or questions to ask. We'll keep this relatively informal. And I'll start with a question for the group, actually. Would love to hear your thoughts on why you think it's important to have a website or what prompted you to sign up for this session this afternoon. Feel free to raise your hand or drop some ideas in the chat box.
I can go first.
Sure. Is that Jennifer? Go right ahead.
Yeah. I'm actually almost done with my degree, my MLIS degree. And actually one of the classes that we have to take is a capstone class where we have to create a portfolio. And so this just came at a perfect time because I need to make a portfolio for my class and it needs
Great reason to be here. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I'm sure a lot of you are maybe in a similar boat, right? Where you have an assignment, a project, a requirement for graduation to create your portfolio. So it's a good kind of nudge to get you to this point to really start to think about how you can, of course, showcase your work and everything that you've, accomplished at Rutgers over your academic career. So that's terrific. Also from Anna here in the chat to showcase your work. Absolutely. So this is a visual platform that we're going to be working with. So think about ways you can show either through images, videos, or, creative writing, how you've really been successful in your particular field. And from Michelle, who's studying UX UI, portfolio is often asked of us in job applications. Absolutely. And I would say even outside of that particular field, most applications these days include the opportunity for you to add a website. It may or may not be required, but of course, you certainly don't want to leave any fields blank when submitting an application. So becoming more and more of a standard as you're seeking opportunities. Okay, great. Harley, you're in the same boat as Jennifer. Good to know. And from Melissa, I'd love to have one place I can represent my accomplishments that are both school and career related. Sometimes it can be hard to show that in just a resume or LinkedIn. Absolutely. So think of your website as a complement to your resume and your LinkedIn. All three of these platforms or showcases are working together, right? You can't really have one without the other. They all serve a different purpose. And for your site, you can include your resume, you can promote your LinkedIn, and on your LinkedIn, you can promote your website. So they should all really be connected. All right, so thanks so much, you guys. Nailed this, initial pop quiz, if you will. Other things just to keep in mind. This is a great way for you to be in contact with people in your field, to start to network. Social media is one way you can begin making those connections. We'll introduce other ways that you can have people, message you or get in touch, or you can start to collect names and information as well. Another thing to keep in mind is that this will allow you to also take ownership of your online content. So you've pretty much grown up in this digital age. There's probably a lot of content that's out there about you on the web, whether that's, information you've posted on social media, maybe photos folks have updated or posted that includes you, whether or not those are the first things you want hiring managers to see when they type your name into Google, it's up to you to decide. But the idea of being able to kind of control that experience, have your professional online presence be that first thing that hiring managers discover about you is really important. So we'll talk at the very end about how you can make sure that your portfolio is also discoverable on search engines. It's a big part of the process as well. And then finally, just to mention here that having a website is a true competitive advantage. So it's going to give you a leg up against, the competition. All right, so we've set the stage on why it's important. For those who are not familiar with Wix, I'll just give a brief introduction. We are a cloud-based web design platform. Wix is free to use, and hopefully after today's session, you'll find that it's relatively intuitive. Everything we're going to do today is using our drag and drop experience, so you don't need to know how to code to build a professional website with Wix. Now, I always like to show kind of Wix in action, one of the best ways to kind of bring it all to life, see what's possible. So we're going to explore different examples of student portfolios over, the first part of our session today. Now, we'll start with Ellen's portfolio. Ellen's a designer based here in the New York area. And you'll notice that she's featuring a handful of projects here kind of in the center of the page. And then over on the right-hand side, you might notice a few other images that she's highlighting. These are actually what she calls some of her passion projects. So she's combined what she's done professionally and academically with what she likes to do kind of outside of her day-to-day, so what she likes to do for fun. So don't be afraid to kind of combine both sides of yourself here in your portfolio. I think it's really nice to kind of showcase your whole self and not only, what it is that you do professionally. And then down below, you'll notice she does a really nice job of inviting us to connect. And she gives us 3 ways to do so, to connect with her over email, find her on LinkedIn, and also follow her on Instagram. So you can begin to kind of think about how you want people to get in touch with you as well. So now that we've seen Wix in action, I always like to just go over a couple of recommended steps you can take before building your portfolio. For everyone who's just at the very kind of beginning of this journey, this is a really helpful place to start. And first thing you'll of course want to do is to define your site goal. And I think for most of us, it's to develop a home for our work. However, for some of us, we might also have some secondary goals, maybe to launch a blog, to share our knowledge, or maybe we're also entrepreneurs and we're looking to start a business. No matter what you're looking to achieve with your website, it's just important to have a clear goal in mind because this will determine the content, the pages, and the features you'll want to include. In order to achieve that goal, you also want to have a clear call to action on your website. You might hear me refer to this as a CTA for short. What I'm really just referring to is a way to direct your visitors to what you want them to do or the action you need them to take. So for example, if you are building a portfolio website, your call to action might be download my resume, contact me, learn more. If you are launching an online store, your call to action is going to be different, right? It's going to be shop now or buy now. We'll use buttons to highlight these call to actions once we're building our site in the editor, but keep this in mind and maybe start to think about what action you want your visitors to take on your site. All right, let's take a look at another example. This is from Sarah, who's doing some graduate work in the area of social policy, social studies. So different field than Ellen, right? She's in a little bit more of a research field. So her work samples are certainly different than Ellen, who's studying graphic design. Right off the bat, you have this nice intro or about me section. Sarah kind of gives a little overview of what she's studying, some of her credentials, what she likes to do. And then you'll notice right below, she's using buttons to highlight 2 call to actions, one to contact her via email, and the second will, once we click, will actually open up her CV. All right, so 2 CTAs. And then the second section here is introducing us to her research, and she's highlighting kind of 4 different categories or themes. And then for each one, she's inviting us to click to learn more. So another call to action, which brings us here to her research page, where she's chosen to use what we call a slideshow, this nice interactive feature, which allows us to learn more about each particular piece of research. Also includes some links to more information. All right, so a different look and feel, but very professional, very well organized, and a good use of those CTAs as well. So now that you have a clear goal in mind, your call to action, it's important to think about your site content. Students will often ask me how many projects or work samples should I include in my portfolio? And my advice is always to go with quality over quantity. Aim to have anywhere between 4 to 8 projects. I think that's a good general rule of thumb. And I always recommend, connecting with an advisor or a professor in your field to get some additional guidance on maybe what might be the best approach in terms of preparing your portfolio. Here's a quick content checklist that you can refer to, just outlining some of the other pieces of content you'll want to curate ahead of time. And I'll make sure that you have access to this presentation. So if you want to refer back to this, you'll have the option to do so. Now, once you know what content you'll be working with, you'll want to think about how you can organize it on your site. And what we're looking at here is an example of a sitemap, which is just a helpful tool to identify any of the primary pages of your site, as well as any secondary or subpages here on the vertical that you might want to include. And then the final step in this process is just to take some time to reflect on your personal brand and how you can showcase that in your portfolio. Now, we like to say your personal brand is a combination of your expertise, your experience, and your personality. Essentially, what is it that makes you unique? And the design choices you make throughout your website should really complement your personal brand. So a few considerations: the colors that you choose to work with, the style of fonts that you use, also the tone of your writing. So if we look at another student example, this is Jung's portfolio. I'm going to just scroll down his homepage, and I'd love for all of us to just kind of put into the chat, or you can chat it out, 1 or 2 adjectives you would use to describe Jung's personal brand just by glancing here at the homepage of his portfolio. Okay, so just 1 or 2 adjectives you would use to describe Jung's personal brand. Okay, so 2 votes for creative, bright, fun. Inviting, friendly, casual, dynamic, absolutely. Active and simple in its design, minimalistic. Yeah, there's not a ton of content here on the page. It's broken out pretty much into 3 sections. So we go back up to the top. He's welcoming us in this first fold here. So sitting on top of this really fun, dynamic, kind of playful bouncing ball video background. He's created this really nice animation that's using multiple languages to welcome us to his page. And he's introducing us, just a few sentences, basically a personal statement, or, highlighting, who he is and what he loves to do. And you'll notice he's inviting us with this arrow pointing down to continue to scroll here to the second section, which is where he's featuring his work. And he's using what we call a gallery and highlighting 4 different projects. All right, so again, quality over quantity. And this is all sitting on top of a very minimal background, right? There's not too many other bells and whistles kind of distracting us from what's most important, which is to, choose a project here to dive deeper into his work. And then the final section here is a call to action to make something fun together. And he's using the CTA Hit Me Up on top of this button for us to connect with him via email. Right? So you can tell his tone, his ways of communicating is very informal, very casual. This is something that aligns with his personal brand. The color choice is very bright. You can almost imagine just by kind of glancing here at his page what it might be like to collaborate with him or work with Zhang on a project. All right, and just to kind of close the loop here, we'll take a look at one of his project detail pages. I think he's done a really nice job of introducing us to a few case studies in his field. And you may notice over here on the right-hand side of the screen, there's what we call an anchor menu, which is actually walking us or allowing us to click through to the different steps of his process, or essentially how he got from that initial challenge to, his final solution or experience in this case. So you might want to think about how you can really show visitors how you think or how you tackle a project by introducing them to your process. Now, there are a lot more examples here in the presentation, which again, you'll have a copy of. So you can thumb through how other students have approached the process, students from all different fields, engineering, music, journalism, industrial design. We even have a student here who decided to create content for his field of study. So he used our Wix podcast player as well as our blog, all tools that you'll have available to you once you start designing your site in the editor. All right, so let me just pause here before we get into the demonstration just to check in, see if there's any questions about the material I've shared so far. Okay, so there's no questions. We'll switch tabs here. And what I've done is I've just gone to Wix.com. So if anyone is wanting to multitask, kind of follow along as we go here. To get started with Wix, you don't need to download any software. Just open up your browser, type in Wix.com, and you'll be brought here to our homepage. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly set up a new account so that way everyone knows how to get started. So we'll begin by hitting this blue button here in the center of our page. And then Wix is going to invite you to sign up as a new user with just a password and your email address. You can use either your personal or your .edu address. You can always change it later on if you'd like as well. You can use Google to log in or Facebook. And then what's going to happen here is Wix will just ask you a couple of questions to determine what you're looking to create. So we'll go ahead and click continue here. What kind of website are you creating? I'll type in portfolio. You can get even more specific if you prefer. Second question, what would you like to call your website? If you have a name, you can drop it in, or if you don't, you can always hit the skip button down at the bottom right and just bypass this question. What are your goals for your website? So we just discussed identifying that before you begin. I'm going to just select promote myself. And then what do you want to add to your website? Now we're providing a sample of some of our tools and features, which you can, check off any that's of interest to you. However, again, if you're not sure, you can just go ahead and skip, knowing that you can always add these tools and features later on in the process. Have you created a website before? I'm just going to go ahead and say this is my first time. Now, this next screen is an important one to take note of because with Wix, you actually have two ways for how you can create your website. Option one over here on the left is to build your site using Wix ADI. ADI just stands for Artificial Design Intelligence. So in this scenario, Wix will ask you a couple of questions and then create a website for you in just a matter of minutes. The option over here on the right is the one I recommend for students, and that's to choose a template and create your website in the Wix editor. This option will just give you more control over your design, more options to customize it. And this will bring you here into the Wix template library, where we have hundreds of templates all built in-house by our designers here at Wix. And the important thing to note about templates is that they are customizable. So they're really just a starting off point. You can view any of them here in full screen. And again, keep in mind, everything we're looking at, you can customize. So this background image, the style of text here, this contact form, you can really edit, make it your own. And of course, if you don't want to, work with this one, you can keep browsing and check out some of our resume and CV templates. This one has a totally different look and feel, different layout. This might speak more to you and your personality. But again, everything you're looking at, you can customize the colors, the content, the animations, everything you're seeing, you can edit. Now up top here, you'll notice all of the other categories of templates. So I encourage you to browse these as well. You can, look to launch a business, an online store, tons of different categories. You can certainly use a template from a different category for your portfolio. You don't have to use something specific for a portfolio. You can get creative with it. If you are in a creative field, I encourage you to check out what we have here. Maybe you're, a DJ on the side, or maybe you're in the performing arts. Maybe you're studying design. All right, so lots you can view here as well. Now, if you have a really clear vision of what you want to create, you also have the option over here on the right to begin building your website from a blank template. All right, and this will allow you to just start from scratch. Now, for the purposes of today's session, I'm going to just begin building my website from a CV template. So I'm going to grab this one here, and to begin building your site, you're just going to hover over and click edit. And that'll move you here into the Wix editor, which will essentially be your workspace for building your site. All right, and while this loads, any questions about how we got to this point in the process? Okay. So here we are in the editor. I'm just selecting this image here on the home page. You'll notice I can just grab the corners and resize it. I can move it around the page. I also will notice that a floating menu will appear above it. This will allow me, of course, to change that image as well as to change the look and feel of it. So let's start here by changing the image. And what's going to pop open is your media manager. And this is where you can upload your own media, videos, images, PDFs, whatever you're working with. However, if you don't have media for your site, you can also browse media from Wix, which you can access over here on the left where my mouse is. This gives you access to thousands of copyright-free images, backgrounds, vector art, everything you need to really stay creative and have a very professional looking site. You don't have to worry about grabbing things off the internet and, citing who they belong to. All right, I'm just going to go ahead and change that image. And then here from the floating menu, I'll click on the paintbrush to change the design. You can give it like a nice round frame. I can also animate this image. So if you look for the diamond option, you can see you can just add like a really nice effect or animation. And then of course, the same with text. You can just hit edit. You can begin adding your own information. Here in the settings, of course, you can decrease the size, change up the font itself. You can choose something from our library here. You also have the option to upload your own fonts. I'm now going to just look for the A here, which will allow you to update the color. And what's going to pop open is your color picker. Every template you work with will have about 5 colors that have been, hand selected by our designers that are recommended, that they work well together. Now you can continue to use that palette. You can add more colors as you go, or you could choose to edit the entire color theme. So I'm clicking the blue edit button. And what's going to happen here is it's going to pop open my theme manager over on the left. And again, you can just go ahead and edit 1 or 2 colors, or you can change out the whole theme. So that's what I'm going to do. And then from our list here, you can choose one that's maybe more reflective of your personal brand. All right, so we just saw Zheng's portfolio and we saw the importance of his color choice, right? And what that was able to convey to his site visitors. All right, so let's go with this one. And that way, when we go back to edit the text, we change the color, you'll see you have the new theme to work from. All right, so best practice is to stick with about 4 to 5 colors throughout, and to also be consistent with your text as well. So you can change up the text themes, but again, you should aim to work with about 2 or 3 fonts max across all the pages of your site. So consistency is key here. You can also remove elements as well. So if you don't want to work with these circles, you can just hit delete on your keyboard. Now let's go ahead and save our site. So I'm just moving up to the top right-hand corner and I'm going to click save. And this is also going to introduce us to the topic of domains. So Wix works as a freemium model. You can build as many websites as you'd like for free. And with a free Wix site, you receive a wixsite.com domain, which consists of your account name followed by .wixsite.com. And then anything after that / you can edit. The second option here is to connect to your own custom domain. So that's also a possibility if you want to have, say, your name.com or your business.com. Just note, however, that this will require you to upgrade to one of our premium plans, and that will allow you then to connect to that domain. Okay, and I have more information at the end about a student offer, which will allow you to upgrade one Wix website for free for 1 year if you decide that's important. And Elo, I see your question here in the chat. Does Wix require a hosting plan? So for your wixsite.com domain, the free domain, hosting is included. Okay. If you connect to a custom domain, the first you have to upgrade to a premium plan. The first year of hosting is free. And then after that, there will be, an investment that you'll need to make to continue to host your site with that domain. Okay, and more information in the Help Center about domains, which I'll share at the end. And if there's time, I'll also go over the premium plans if anyone's interested. But for now, we'll go ahead and click Save and Continue. And I'll just highlight one other thing up at the very top of the editor here, and that's your mobile editor. So I'm going to click on this mobile icon. And this will allow you to preview your site on a mobile device and make the necessary changes to ensure that your site's going to look just as professional in the mobile environment. So it's really important to toggle between the desktop editor and the mobile editor as you're building your site.
Interesting.
All right, and we'll go back to desktop to keep working. All right, and I'm just going to ask everyone to mute. There's a little bit of background noise.
If you start your homework.
Okay, I think that's Elo. Maybe you could just mute Elo. There we go. Thank you. All right, terrific. So let's go ahead now and start to add some new content to the page. So I'm moving over to the left-hand side and I'm looking for our add panel, which is here with the plus icon. And now you see all the different features you can add to the page. So everything from images to text, interactive features, video, lots of options. So I encourage you all to spend some time here, browse, see what's available. But we'll start with something relatively simple. We'll go up to the top here and we'll look for the button category. And we mentioned earlier that buttons are a really nice way to highlight your call to actions. So let's go ahead and add a CTA. Lots of styles of buttons you can choose from. However, I'm just going to go ahead and work with one of my themed buttons. To add a new element to the page, you're just dragging and dropping it from the panel and placing it where you want it to go. All right, I'm going to click Change Text to add my call to action, which is going to be to contact me. I just want people to get in touch. And then down here at the bottom, it's asking us to add a link. When you see that chain link icon, it means you can link any element in Wix to one of the items over here on the left. All right, so I can link it to another website if I wanted to. I could also link it to a document. So if this read download my resume, here's where I would upload my PDF. In my case, I'm just going to have it linked to a page, specifically my contact page. And then we'll click done. And I'll just move up to the top right-hand corner where it says preview to see some of the changes that we've made to date. All right, so this is the experience now that our visitors will have. So you can kind of see how it's all coming together in this preview mode. And then you can click back to editor to keep working. Now we're looking at our contact page, and of course you can continue to edit what you see here. You can add new features. You can work with this form. You can edit the fields, make the changes you need. However, if you want to get back to that home page we started working on, two ways to do so. You can navigate up to the top left here. There's a nice drop down, which will allow you to move from page to page. You can also open up the panel highlighted here in green on the left called Site Pages. And here's where you can then kind of move from page to page. And you also have the option at the bottom to add a page. So when you see that blue button below, that will allow you to add. So I'm going to click Add Page just to show you how you can start to add new pages to your site. You have the choice to add a blank page, or you can work with one of our templates. Wix loves templates. And you can see here, we have some about pages. That's what I'm going to go ahead and add. The template I started working with really didn't have an about page, so this is a good one to add. And it's prompting me to give it a name. And then I'm going to click done. And now I can go ahead and add a nice bio. You'll also notice over here on the right, the website menu. So this is how your visitors are going to move from page to page. And that new page that we just added about me is automatically featured now in the menu once it's added. All right, but you can go ahead and click Manage Menu to make changes to it. You can also do a few things over here in the panel, like reorganizing the order of the pages just by dragging and dropping. You can also create a subpage. So we saw that in the sitemap example earlier on. So if you wanted resume to actually appear underneath about, you would drag and drop it and move it to the right. And you'll notice that this indentation will appear. So when we go up to preview now, we hover over about. Now visitors will see resume underneath. All right, so you can create a new page and also create a sub page. So let's go back to that ad panel and talk about a couple different ways you can start to showcase your work. So different features you can use to highlight projects, case studies, whatever it is that you want to highlight. We saw in a few examples, gallery being used. So let's go ahead and preview that. So I'm just dropping it on my page here. This is just a grid gallery. And Wix just fills it with some stock images. So the first thing you'll want to do then is manage the media to change them. And you can make the gallery smaller. You can maybe have, let's say, 8 images instead. And to replace those images, you're just looking over here at the right to replace the image and then to give it a title and a description. And over here at the bottom is where you can add a link as well. So in Zhang's case, he actually used the gallery on his homepage to preview his projects. And then he linked each image in the gallery to what we call a project detail page, where he had all of that additional context information about the project. All right, so those changes have been updated. Imagine your images are here. Second step you'll want to take is to click on the settings option in the floating menu, because this will give you more ways to really edit it and make it your own. So you can start with the layout. You can have it be a little bit more like asymmetrical if you want. The settings here will allow you to change the behavior so you can determine what happens when someone clicks on an image. Do you want it to open in full screen, open a link, etc. You can also change up the design. And just one way you can do that is maybe by adding an overlay. You can choose a color here from your palette. You can even add an effect, like a slide up or an expand. And that way, when we go to preview, we can see how our changes are coming along. Okay, so there's that nice overlay that's sliding up in purple. And then when we click on an image, it'll give us this full screen view. Okay, and I apologize for the truck that's beeping in the background. Hopefully it's not too loud. All right, so that's one way, using a gallery to showcase your projects. Another option we saw in the presentation was using a slideshow. So Sarah used a slideshow to showcase her research projects. So you can see here under interactive, lots of different styles. These are easy to work with. You can just drag and drop them here. You can also use them to introduce yourself. This is kind of a fun one. And you can see here, there's about 3 different slides. You can certainly add more. Right, and it's just filled with some text, some background color, all of which you can update. Okay, so maybe you wanted to change the slide background. You can choose an image instead. Okay, so these are really, easy and fun to start working with. And you can see here, here's where you toggle where the tab is from slide to slide. And you can, of course, add a 4th and 5th if you'd like. You can also set it to automatically scroll as well. Under a list here, we have a nice section of what we call repeaters. There's just nice ways, nice layouts to showcase maybe different skills you have, or if you work in a couple different areas, this could be a really nice kind of navigation tool to highlight those different categories of your work as well. Now, some students have reels or video of them, presenting or giving a talk or participating in an experience. So easy ways to add video using just a single video player. You can easily just drag and drop it right here on your page. You can make it larger. And then you have the choice to either just upload something right from your desktop, or if you use a platform like YouTube or Vimeo, you can easily just drop in the unique URL of that video. You can have it autoplay. And now you have video being featured right here on your home page. Last feature I just want to highlight, and then I would love to hear from the group any requests or any specific questions you have about working here in the editor. Last feature, just your social media bar. So you can see here different styles that you can choose from. We'll just drag and drop one in, and I'll actually go ahead and place it here in my header. Your header is everything that's sitting above this horizontal line up at the top. Just means that all of these elements, like your menu, for example, will appear on every single page of your site. And here's where you can determine, which pages, or which profiles you want to feature. So maybe you just use Twitter and LinkedIn professionally. And then you can always add more icons. Wix provides all the icons that you can think of here in all different styles. So easy to add more as well. All right, and then just don't forget to link your profile page. Otherwise, it'll go to Wix's profiles. All right, now people will be able to connect with you on those platforms. All right, let me just take a brief pause to check in. Any questions about how we're adding and creating content here in the editor? Okay. All right, so what I'm going to do then is I'm actually going to, actually before we move away from the editor, I'll just highlight one other panel. This is an important one. So over here on the left, you'll see it highlighted in pink. If there's something you can't find in the ad panel, I recommend checking out the app market. Here's where we have applications from both Wix as well as third parties. It's also where we have our Wix business solution. So in addition to building a portfolio, maybe you're also thinking about creating a website for a family business or a student organization that you're a part of. You can see here's where you have access to our e-commerce platform, Wix Stores. You also have a platform to manage and promote events online. And here's where you can also find our blog application as well. Okay, so this is where you have all of your business solutions, and then you could search for other applications. So for example, maybe you want to feature a few images from your Instagram feed. Maybe that's one way you showcase some of your work. You can easily add that to your site. Some students will often ask, how do I embed like a full PDF onto my portfolio site? You can find our PDF viewer here as well. All right, so that's the app market. So now let's go ahead and I'm going to navigate up to site and I'm going to move us to our dashboard. So just site menu, my dashboard at the bottom. Your dashboard is where you have all of your site management tools and also the different tools that will allow you to promote and grow your online presence. All right, so here's my dashboard. Over on the right here, it's a little small, the text, but you'll see the blue button to go back to edit the site we were just working on. You can also take a site action to trash the site, create a new one, or if you're working with a group or a partner, you can invite people to collaborate. Over here on the left in this kind of black menu, lots of different tools that will allow you to manage your site. For example, here under communications, you have your inbox. So this is where you would have all incoming messages from your website. So people are messaging you on chat or email. This is where you'll be able to kind of manage and respond to all of those, site visitors. You'll also notice a category called marketing and SEO. Here's a whole catalog of tools that'll help you drive traffic to your site. Starting with our Get Found on Google tool. This is the one I mentioned early in the beginning. It'll allow you to connect to the Google Search Console and make sure your site is optimized for search engines. All right, so this is an essential tool. This is one that everyone should be aware of and come back to before they launch their site. All right, so this is our SEO wizard. We'll ask you a couple of questions and then build a personalized checklist for your site and walk you through how to make some specific changes to improve or set up your site for search results. All right, and then there's other ways you can promote your site here. You can take a look at our social media posts. So maybe you want to announce the launch of your website using one of our nice templates. Or maybe you want to send out an email to friends and family. You can create a nice email newsletter. Right, so lots of different ways to stay creative. So that's your dashboard. Encourage you to explore what else is there. And then we'll just wrap up by highlighting a couple different resources, starting with our help center. So if questions are inevitably going to come up once you start working on your portfolio site, I encourage you to check out support.wix.com. Here's where we have tutorials, step-by-step guides, everything you'll need to know to build your website. You can also connect to customer service, get a call back if you find yourself in like a very, complex situation or a technical bind. I've also included a couple of other links on portfolio building, link to our logo maker if you want to create a personal logo for yourself, and then just some general FAQs and links for more inspiration around portfolios. And then the final resource I'll just mention is that student offer that I shared earlier. So if you are interested in upgrading your portfolio site to a Wix premium plan, which will allow you to get connected to a custom domain, we're offering Rutgers students the opportunity to do so for free for 1 year. So you'll be able to upgrade your site to either the combo or unlimited plan. Oops, sorry. And each code will allow you to apply, these codes will expire at the end of 2023. So you can apply the code, up until that date. Okay, so you have lots of time to use it. And you can request those codes through Ildian team in the Career Center. She might provide some more info on how to do that, but that's the offer. And when you are browsing our premium plans, again, it's the unlimited and combo plan over here on the right. So those are the two choices that you can use.